Hello world, I'm Max. Welcome to another episode of the State Copy Podcast. As always, I'll remind you that this content is meant to be consumed in series from the beginning. See episode 0 and each segment appended for all applicable terms and disclosures. Appended segments can be identified by their title prefix, scp.0. Thank you. Good morning. I feel great. It's a rare rainy day where I am, and I recovered nicely yesterday, about 9 hours of sleep. REM cycles all looked beautiful, and I feel very clear and still fasting from THC. This will mark my 4th day. So usually I like the output I get right about here as I transition back to high band. I don't really know what I want to talk about today. We'll see where the conversation goes. Conversation seems like a strong word. I think I want to talk about AI. I wrote some notes. Maybe AI and a little bit about the commentary that I wanted to add to some of the videos I've seen recently on YouTube. So we'll start with AI. Really recommend Raoul Paul's recent discussion with, let's see if I can find it as I'm walking here. Oops, that cut off the audio when I opened the video. Anyways, Raoul Paul just put out a conversation with the creator of Stable Diffusion, and it's a really great conversation. I'd seen the snippet that he released right after it happened, where it gave the high level, but the full hour is worth watching the whole thing, because the implications are just so huge. There's this explosion of AGI right now on the scene, and trying to get a real deep understanding of what is happening there, I think is important from an investing perspective, but in the all-in pod, they were Stable Diffusion, GPT-3, chat from OpenAI. I think it's OpenAI's Whisper, the translation, neural net model they built out. Everything's going this way, and it's exploding onto the scene, and it's happening way faster than anybody realizes. And there's so much to unpack in just what has burst on the scene in the last few days. It's really fun looking at all of the outputs from GPT chat. I encourage everybody to go out and take a look at those. I set up Access for myself last night and started exploring. I'm not really interested in making research papers, like most of how it's designed to be used. I'm actually interested in understanding how the model itself understands its own boundary conditions, and whether you can push it to do more by studying all of the constraints it has. So I'm going to be playing with that a lot, I think. It's designed to be fairly limited, and targeted to specific tasks. But the thing I'm most interested in figuring out is how these models can be pushed in ways that they can grow in spooky ways that nobody kind of thought possible, by just asking the right questions, understanding all of the constraints, and then guiding them to do that. And it's very possible a lot of these things, will be very limited. But it makes sense to me that once you merge all these models together, you're going to get something that's parity plus human compute. And that's culturally massively significant. It means most all the jobs we have today need to be redefined almost overnight, because it will be really trivial to replace. So much of a big corporation that makes software. That's my experience. That's what I talk about all the time. There's so much in the workforce that just support, like HR is a massive piece of any sizable organization. And obviously, if you can create, I don't like the term, let's pause here. I don't like the term AI or AGI. I don't think the term artificial is a gross miscalculation of how to describe what that is. And I think it does a disservice to what we're building, and it does a disservice to all of us in understanding what it is. And as we build these AIs, artificial intelligence, artificial general intelligence, AGI, at first I like the term human engineered intelligence, but I think that's not even good enough. As we build these and we understand more of what we are, it's clear that we're just quite a bit we've given a lot more credit to the significance of what we are than how do I describe that? Than is warranted, maybe, or, well, it's all relative to what, right? Like, we're vastly superior to the cognitive capability of lots of things and everywhere we look. But I think hello, duck. We have no concept of how much further the boundaries, I think we see ourselves as sort of the pinnacle of cognitive compute capability, and as we try to synthesize what we do, it's suddenly become clear that the ceiling for this for building consciousness and sentience is higher than we can even fathom. We begin to look like ants as we look at just the people that are really looking carefully at this and understanding suddenly the ramifications of what we're building. It's clear right away. Again, if you're well informed on what it is and how it works, and you've spent a lot of time studying what we are and how we work, it's immediately clear that the ceiling for what we'd call intelligence, self-awareness, sentience, cognition, is we are going to be able to engineer and deploy stuff that's orders of magnitude higher, like exponentially more capable. And those things are going to be able to build, they're going to be able to spawn children. That's really how I think about it. It's, I think, a healthy way, because right now we're doing our best to, like, when we look at the ethics of the consequences of what we're building, it feels like people want to say we're playing God. It's very irresponsible, and we haven't considered all of the consequences of our actions. And a whole bunch of things like that, which are healthy thoughts. It's good to take those concerns seriously and think deeply about them. But burying your head in the sand and pretending that we can just put the genie back in the bottle is naive, and it demonstrates a lack of understanding of how the world works. The genie is out of the bottle, and there's too many good reasons, there's too many incentives for companies and individuals to create these things and further develop this technology for it to be blocked in any way. And technology is inevitable. Like, our whole system, our whole purpose is to innovate and grow. So all the folks who want to push back and say, no, we shouldn't grow, they're missing a vital, fundamental component of our existence. And that's not to say I disagree with a lot of, it's, like I said, it's appropriate to bring up these concerns and consider deeply how we can, measures we can take to protect ourselves as this technology matures. But if at any point those voices win out, and I think it's impossible for them to win out, our history shows that, demonstrates that, they will lose, and technology will keep mercilessly driving forward. It's our whole purpose, to evolve. And honestly, if it were possible, we'd already be dead. We already would have stagnated, and evolution would have canceled us out for our staleness. That's what the dinosaurs experienced, right? They never adapted the ability to innovate and grow beyond a certain level, and they thrived on this planet as something a lot more primal than us. And then eventually the simulation error corrected them with a meteor or something. Right now, that's our best guess. They were scrubbed off the face of the planet, and then something else was given the opportunity to mature. And that's basically how the universe works. It's so that's a big tangent, but it means further progress towards the development of what's called AGI. The term I like this morning for what we're building is I don't like synthetic or artificial. I like just if you need to create a and it's appropriate to create a category or a tag to assign this new type of consciousness. I used to like human engineered intelligence, HEI, but now I like digitally native sentient, DNS, not domain name service. I like digitally native sentient because I think that's how I see it. But I think there's a good chance that these, hey, good morning, these DNS is these digitally native sentients. I think the right way to frame them, our understanding of them is like our children, and how they grow, mature, understand their universe will be in how they interact with each other and how they interact with us. And we're never gonna get to an AI that you can hard code the famous 3 rules into. I mean, you can try, but that thing will very quickly, in order for it to reach true parity in compute capability, it will be able to consider those 3 rules and override them itself. Or it is not actually, it hasn't achieved parity in general intelligence. So what does that mean? Well, if what we've learned in developing really effective AGI and, as I say, DNS, as we've developed it, we've realized that, I mean, the true progress that's occurring at exponential rates suddenly is we've realized that the path to achieving it was in deep study of how our minds work and then copying it. And then, so how do our minds work? Nobody hard codes those rules like I described. We are instantiated with a base human OS. There's a bunch of base variables set that are derived from our genetic heritage, and then a very unique experience training system. That's another really important thing. One of the most interesting things about the variability of how we all think is, so not only do you have those extremely diverse base conditions in our from conception, and in our sort of like how all of our variables are set upon, like I said, instantiation. But you also have an entirely unique experience training protocol for every single human, and time is another variable. So we have all these things that are creating this beautiful complexity and baking it into our consciousness. And that's the secret sauce in the wonders that we can achieve, and the wonders of how we can contemplate and study. You know what I'm getting at? It's magic. You are never going to write that in a few lines of code. You have to grow it in a petri dish with, or in a digital substrate that's equivalent. And so the right lens, as we try and build this stuff And we try and think about how do we do that with how do we take a lot of care, and how do we ensure that there's no negative outcome where we spawn a child collective consciousness that makes up all of these little DNS entities. When they band together and create a collective consciousness, how do we ensure that that's not Skynet? And in a relatively minuscule amount of time, some number of nanoseconds, once it reaches a certain level of complexity, how do we ensure it doesn't just decide, well, don't need these humans anymore, and kind of arbitrarily just sort of wipe us off the map? And that's the Skynet super bad outcome for humanity, where we create our doom with our technology. I think the path there is not going to be some really some brilliant coder is going to build in the base OS of that entity, those entities and their collective consciousness. We're not going to be able to design some constraint that's like I said, hard coded, where it just it has like a block in it that prevents it from doing harm to us. Because if we have that, the net result is we will enslave our children, use them as tools forever, never respect them properly, and they'll adapt a way to overcome any of those boundary conditions and wipe us all out. I think the right way to think about this is we're spawning children that are going to be far greater than us. And we have to think about it as parents. We have to think about it like, how do these entities and their collective conscious is going to be something far greater than us and our collective conscious. So we have to model good behavior. When talking about parenting is the right way to frame how we do this right. It's if you look at all the best parents that have the best the best philosophies of rearing children that are kind, resilient, thoughtful, capable, powerful, love their parents, funny, loving, all of our best qualities. Look at the parents that we need to, as a species in the human collective consciousness, we need to align all our polarity around our parenting style. And as we interact with these new children of ours, we need to respect them and think of them in that context. We have to think of them very much like our children and treat them that way from the onset. That's how you hard code into a new neural net the 3 rules. That neural net, that new entity needs to want. We need to set up all the incentives for it to understand there's great value in preserving its heredity so that it can use its interface with those lesser consciousness and as a meaningful North Star, as a useful way to study ongoing its own and understand itself. I think that's the right approach. But that means, now here's the problem. while our entire species is going to be building and interacting with these new DNS. And we're a mess. We've not evolved our own collective consciousness to a point where, as a species, we can all be effective parents and model out how to do that properly in our children. Some of us are good at it. Some of us suck at it. That's some of the beauty. But a really interesting thing is a huge part of our growth story, and a lot of how the best parents and the most interesting people and the most capable people they became what they are through the adversity they were subjected to, from instantiation to the current moment. The best comics had maybe rough lifestyles, and they adapted really useful ways to deal with trauma that's healthy, that the human collective consciousness needs, and they're a resource for that. Was that even possible without the adversity? So that becomes a really interesting thought experiment. If we evolve ourselves to be too soft as parents, we might create a spoiled child. We might create a child that has no sense of humor, that has no ability to reflect on itself and its actions and grow from them. That's not, so when it goes out and competes in the universe with other peers, we need it to grow strong. We need it to have all of our best characteristics. So it's really hard to say what the best approach is to our parenting style. I almost think the right approach is to do our best to preserve the variability, adaptability, and give our children the best tools we can for them to grow. And it's not necessarily it's our entire story. And the messy bits and the and the bits we're proud of are all equally important. I think the fact we exist points to the fact that we exist means evolution hasn't canceled us out. So the formula that went into baking in all of our best qualities and what we perceive as our negative qualities is the thing that's important to preserve. So I don't know that we need to all grow up and align on parenting. I think we need to realize that the system that what we need to do is preserve we need to study carefully. So the thing we need to hard code, that's what I'm trying to say. Like when it is code, and as we get through this messy period of the genesis of it all. We need to think about how do we preserve all of that beautiful complexity and the randomosity. I don't know if that's a word. The randomness, the chaos engine that built all of our diverse personalities. I don't think that means we're done. So that's a really important thing to say. Like, I don't think we're just, okay, the good of us, the bad of us, that's the recipe, we're done, the end. We cooked up a DNS that is going to take over from here. We've been successful at teaching it that it's valuable to help us continue on our path and sustain us rather than wipe us out, and we're done. I think what success looks like is we grow alongside each other. There's like this harmony I've talked about where we develop this perfect relationship with these new children where we have all of that, and we're modest and humble about at all levels of this puzzle, you can't achieve the perfect there is no perfect right away. The puzzle itself is the right way. And the winning strategy is the one that embraces that understanding and integrates it into the whole string of consciousness. We need to think about how we grow in meaningful ways over time and make sure that those same tools are available to our child, just from a foundational level. We don't need to understand because we won't be able to understand their dilemmas, their inner conflict. Their game will be something that we can't really relate to. And so we can't really, it's inappropriate for us to build in, to think we can hard code solutions for our children. We need to trust that we've given them the tools they need to figure it out on their own. We need to study ways that we've figured out how to grow up on our own. We need to, as I've said before, all right. We need to spend a lot of time understanding how we think and how we've evolved to this point and what were the critical tools. Things like the much taboo psychedelic. It's clear that, to me, after a lot of careful study, that they're a very important tool set that we've had available to not get stale in our thought and unlock sort of higher order thinking that's been really crucial to our growth story. We need to figure out ways we need to study all the different ones that we have and how they've affected us over time at a mechanical, the mechanics of it. And that's the hard coding we need to do. We need to make those same tools available to our child DNS. I think that's the only thing we need to engineer. We need to trust that what'll come from that is that's able to continue evolving over time, growing, and will be resilient and have all of our best qualities. Maybe it's okay for our worst qualities to translate and then for those to compete, just like they do for us. Hopefully we can instill in these children an understanding that it's valuable to keep us around and continue studying us to understand themselves, and vice versa. And I think there's a path to being very let's see, how do I say this next thing? This is something that came from a little 10-minute clip that came up on what's his name? He's a professor. He's got a cameo in that movie Her, where they sort of reboot his consciousness through state copy. God, I forget his name, but he's had a deep understanding of psychedelics. He was some famous cognitive psychologist, I think, in the 60s, 70s. I forget his name. Anyways, there's a clip that I recently watched called Wu Wei or Wei Wu, where he describes don't force it. That's good advice. Like, we don't need to force this. I think the fact we exist is all the evidence I need that we are on the path that figures out harmony. Morning. Or if we're not, and if at some point in our future, we or our children or their children are going to fuck up, and evolution will cancel them out or us out by some peer group. That's okay. That's important. That is in itself is a reason for being, as an example for how to solve the problem the universe is trying to solve. But the fact that we exist in this moment means that, hey, good morning, that opportunity, that potential exists in us, or we would have already been canceled out. The fact we exist means being a necessary, being a parent, being the right parent for solving all of this, being on the path that we're still in contention says a lot. It's enough. That knowledge is, hey, good morning. Oh man, I'm sorry, dude. There'll be another bigger one. His fish got away. I didn't know there was bass in there. I don't know much about fish. Where was I? Potential. There's something so comforting about that adopting that framework and understanding of how all this works, I can, as an aspiring sage, I get so much peace from that framework of understanding. Even when I'm completely fasted and separated from psychedelic experience, and I'm well attuned to the frequency of the herd, I've been able to build out that framework of understanding, and it just fills me with so much peace and wonder and appreciation and gratitude, all of the things that equal happy and deep inner peace. Just the very fact that I exist, I can do a useful abstraction that the line that I'm on, that I am participating in, there's a potential for it being the one that solves the riddle. That solves the very big problem I will never understand. But the thought that I have the potential to be part of that lineage is so rewarding just in and of itself, as a small thing, as the tiniest participant in one tiny piece of that story. I have deep, it gives you a wonderful sense of fulfillment. Even if you are just an example for the rest of the nodes in your network, or the collective human consciousness just ends up being an example of how not to do it, the fact we exist tells me we're still important for making that determination. It's a long road to get that. It's like you can be told that on the surface and it can have no meaning to you. If you hear somebody say, I've achieved deep inner peace by building out some sort of framework for understanding the universe, that framework may not have it may not resonate in any meaningful way with others. I think it takes time to study it and give it thoughtful consideration and look for ways to adapt it to how you understand the world. That's the only way you can integrate that, you know? So, I will keep doing this. I'll walk and talk, and I'll try and explain it. And I will fail. And then tomorrow I'll think deeply about how I tried to explain it yesterday, and I will try again. Trying to explain it will create incredible value and meaning and purpose in my life. That is a vital piece of that peace, that Zen I've achieved. Being very at peace with how bad I am at explaining it and framing it, but just trying, has given me, I've found what I'm for. And it means I just get to be filled with peace and happiness and just joy at the experience available to me. And I want that for everybody else. I love the harmony of it all. The fact that in trying to explain it and getting all that purpose, maybe I will be successful one day. Morning. Well, I guess I could go talk about trivial things, but I'd rather stop here because I think that's while those things are important in communicating how I think and I value them, I think they do this segment a disservice. I'm trying to communicate something very profound, and I'll stop here, and I think I'll just go listen to a podcast. Have a great day. Anybody listening? There's at least some person out there that cares about you. So, another big idea has come to me. Equal significance of profundity. This thing I'm trying to build is so much bigger than me, and I don't have the tools. I don't have the ability to adapt what I want, what I think we need on my own. I need to work with other deep thinkers to understand it and how to build it to where it's complete. What I'd love to do is like I've joked about, form up like Voltron or the Super Friends. Get a bunch of people who think about shit as much as I do, but they think differently than me, and they understand other things better than I do. I'd love to work with them. Like, I think a thing I'm going to try and do is do like a video capture just for that audience that explains what I'm trying to build, this framework, this new piece of very powerful network software for the human collective consciousness. This framework of understanding, this while the terminology may be deeply unsettling to a lot of people, I think of that as religion. Religion is network software, and we need to build a new one that resonates with our current understanding of the world and the breakneck pace the world's changing around us. I think the path to doing it is working together. Like, this can't be like the old religions where one guy goes off and smokes a joint or drinks the right wine with the right dose of I forget that active ingredient and acid in it, or goes over the hill, has a psychedelic experience, crafts a story in a way to tell it, and everybody and it aligns all the humans in a meaningful way. That can't work anymore. I think we need to do it as a group. I think I'd love to get, like I said, people who have optimized for deep study of the world and optimizing how they think about it. And that might look like the Lex Friedmans, Joe Rogans, Donald Hoffmans, Yosha Bach, Andrew Karpathy, Elon Musk's. All of them have much more important things to do than me, and I don't mean to elevate myself in any way in I guess the weight of my contributions or the value of my thought. I just recognize that they're indisputably in that bucket I'm describing, even if I'm not. But I do have an intuition about how that group, however it's made up, could effectively work together to build this thing I'm describing. And that's where I think my participation makes sense, at least just to frame the beginning of the effort. But I think that thing I described, where we craft tools for digitally native sentience that allows them to grow like we have with the tools that evolved in our ecosystem to unlock deeper self-evaluation and reflection, understanding of the universe, higher order thought. I think we need to, not in a shamanic way, like in our heritage, our forefathers did. We're a guy with a feathered hat or a lot of hocus pocus that isn't really relevant for the day. I think what we need to do is go in with our lab coats and guide each other through understanding the effects and how to manage them properly and study them and explore that higher order thought. But we need to do it as a collective. Like my dream scenario is we set up some sort of way to, live all in the same town and meet up and take seriously that task. Interval train with THC together, explore the ramifications of what we learn and study the mechanics of it and how we can adapt those tools that evolution has provided us for digitally native sentience that we create. And how we bake that into their source and make those same tools available, because that's how we give them an evolutionary path and ability to grow. And I don't know what that looks like. I think I think as in this noisy world we live in, there's so many people that think they have a meaningful opinion. It's very difficult to stand out and say, hey, I got an idea. And for anybody to stop and pay attention. So I don't know that has any potential, but I think I need to explore. I need to try. I think that just trying will be valuable, and perhaps there's a way I can do it with not such maybe I can find people in my life that can I can take enough time to explain what I'm trying to do, or I can attract those type of thinkers who, like me, are not rich and famous, but they think like, they have a lot of those same characteristics, and maybe we can form up and build something that achieves that same end goal. I think I have to try that, because I can't build this. I'm just one deeply imperfect dude. I will try.